And I just so appreciate this opportunity to honor the memory of my sister Laura by speaking up about lessons learned, creating significant transactions through community synergy and mutual ownership. So I've learned in the last 18 years how much I still love my sister and how important it is to honor her memory. And I've learned that abundance begets abundance if intention, vision, and mission align. I've also learned that simultaneously there's a dichotomy going on, because in order to be effective, I've discovered that one must measure, manage, fine-tune, and most of all, be grateful for the entire process, which I am. Shh. Do you want to know a secret?
Yeah.
Surgeon General has just issued a report on addiction. The news is not good. Abundant and ample evidence suggests that addiction is a primary public health concern. I know from personal experience, my sister, what saddens me the most, and my father, who stopped drinking, is that the addict can't be fully present with oneself, one's family, or one's community. The good news in this work that I've learned is that transformation is always possible. Something very strong to hold on to. Transformation is always possible. So, I've been to some discerning. I lost my sister. What to do? Define the target. Define the mission. The mission is to honor my sister Laura's memory with hope and help, addiction prevention and recovery resources for those who want to grab on it. Startling statistics: 40 million Americans addicted. Figures change. I was looking them up on Wikipedia. Anywhere from 8 to 10% of our population. Even more startling, 85% of that number don't seek help. My goal and role is not to judge. My goal and role is to offer help. So, now I'm off my memorized speech.
Nice job.
And here we go. We do have bullet points if you'd like to follow along. A couple of things. I want to center with a poem and a prayer. The prayer was born after the eclipse. Just a little more memorized material. When absence of light is in our sight, I wonder, what are we here for? What are we for? What energy guides us? I pray for love. Sweet, unconditional love. May we all be instruments of peace. That's what I want to do. That's what we all want to do in our lives. And the prayer is from Teresa of Avila. She speaks of peace. May there be peace within. May we trust that God, that we're exactly where we're meant to be. May we be content knowing that we're children of God. May we let this presence settle in so that we can experience the joy and the love and praise the Lord. It is there for every one of us. Now, the rest of the talk. So I was devastated when my sister died. Absolutely devastated and astounded. So I thought as a good exercise in the first couple of years, I wrote 14 letters to her called Dear Laura. It's on our website. I'm going to read you excerpts of a couple. The first is the day after my sister died. The second is my first birthday, where I was not receiving a card from her. June 14th, 1999. Dear Laura, Janet and I had just returned from a Seattle-Silverdale weekend trip when we received a chilling midnight phone call from your nephew, Dwayne. He said that you had died, and my first reaction was disbelief. How could this be? You had attended an AA meeting with me recently and admitted you were an alcoholic in recovery. I thought you'd been sober for 6 months. As it began to dawn on me that I was the only one left from our family of origin to deal with your disease. I felt disheartened and totally numb inside. We learned from doctors in the following days that you had sustained a perforated ulcer causing toxic peritonitis. You put on high heels but never made it out of your house the evening of June 13th. A quarter of a century of hard drinking caused you to die prematurely 4 months and 6 days after your 46th birthday. Your addictive path was a choice at every turn, but what a loss. Last sentence of this letter. Actually, 2 sentences. We both survived my father's bipolar episodes from 1965 to 1970 after he stopped drinking. So grateful for that. But I left you to cope alone after heading for Whitman College in the fall of 1968. Now what? Thank God for Janet. I miss you like crazy. My dear wife wanted to be here and couldn't be. But I know she's in my heart and I'm in hers. Birthday letter. September 19th, 1999. I was 49. Dear Laura, since you no longer can send me a card, I'll correspond with you on my 49th birthday. You now know my thoughts before I write them. Does Dad still call you little sweetheart? I thank God you no longer feel pain. With the possible exception of my grandmother and Mom's best friend, Aunt Noxie, nobody in this world sent more birthday cards to me than you. I remain grateful for your love and support. We shared some special times in spite of the tumult. We had each other's back. And that still feels like a grand birthday present to me. Last of written material. So, something very important that I want to impart that I didn't know until 6 years after my sister died is a physiological thing that took my sister out. I did not know that liquor affects women's bodies different than it affects men's. It's simply a physiological thing. I have some empirical evidence because my father drank for 25 years, stopped drinking at 50, lived to 76, attended meetings every week. He drank about a fifth a day. I know this because we had 2 garbage cans at home on Hillside Drive. Alcohol is a secret kind of thing, only this was no secret. The whole neighborhood knew because my father had 1 garbage can, metal, filled with bottles every Wednesday, clank, clank, clank down the stairs, everybody heard. But our family thought it was a secret. It's kind of sad. But he stopped drinking. He did that, and his body repaired, his brain repaired. He lived to 76. Laura drank the same amount as my father. It was just in beer and wine. She died after 25 years of drinking, after stopping for the last 6 months. So that was a wake-up call to me, and I've learned, and I've even talked to doctors, they will ask you now, are you drinking for women, are you drinking 4 drinks in an hour? And men, are you drinking 5 drinks in an hour? It's 2.5. It's 2 to 1. It should be 2.5 drinks. And furthermore, the evidence is so strong about this. We can be social drinkers. Many can. There's heredity stuff that goes on. That's in my family. I have a predisposition. But to manage alcohol effectively, we all learned this in high school health. 1.5 ounces hard liquor, 5 ounces of wine, 12 ounces of beer. It goes through your system. It isn't in your system. If you're driving along, it won't be detected. The trouble comes when those measurements of alcohol are messed with, as my sister did. So, looking at the watch, have about 10 minutes. That's important, though. I so hope that high school health classes are addressing this. Women's physiology is different from men's. So, knowledge is power. And man, I've gotten a lot of knowledge, and what I've learned, actually, along the way was that my priorities were, I thought my number 1 priority was fundraising. I had to raise money for my sister and then do stuff. It turns out I've got 3 priorities, and that's number 3. What's number 3? I will say this, not offering a figure, but I'll just say that I received inherited wealth from my sister when she died. That triggered the estate. It's all gone to, I never thought this would happen, but in the last year, that has been given to 9 drug and alcohol programs, one being Laura's Place. I'm very proud of Laura's Place because 100 women and their children have been helped. I'm also pleased to say that patience pays off. We gave a lead gift in 2001. In 2007, a nurse named Carol Rahm went with it. And within a year and a half's time, we had a 4-plex. And with 2 more years, we had a 6-plex. And this facility helps women transition back into the community. They're off the sauce. They were at Letty Owings for 6 months, and they're off the sauce, but they need some place to transition with counselors and the whole shebang. And that happened. So that taught me that's what fundraising is for. It's for the service. So then what's number 2 priority? Recovery. My number 2 priority is recovery. And I learned, actually at the YWCA, we donated the proceeds of my sister's house to the YWCA. We tried the Salvation Army, and they had so many rules and regulations, I just said, I want this to happen quicker. And Jean DeMaster was very helpful. So I attended a meeting with women, about the number of women were there as you are. And they held hands, and they went around the room. I have 3 years of sobriety. I have 5 years of sobriety. And when they were all done, they had 250 years of sobriety. Something clicked in my brain. So that became the genesis and the inspiration for my sobriety anniversary page. We do that online. We offer no judgment. But we give total ownership of that sobriety to the participants. I know maybe 20 that have broken their silence because they wanted to share with me. But most of them, I don't know. It's 1,079. It amazes me. It's coming up on 19,000 clean and sober years. That astounds me. They're taking ownership. All I did was go to like-minded websites like Sobriety Birthdays or Sobriety Anniversaries of Facebook, use the positive projection and say, our goal is 10 more this month. Our annual goal is 1,000 more years of sobriety. It worked. They've taken ownership. And that relieves me, because my number 1 lesson from all of this is I can't live the life of Mr. Fix-It. I can't fix anything. I tried to help my sister as best I could, and I was there for her 9 times to damage. One time she hitchhiked to San Francisco. I got on the plane and brought her back. Okay, what can I do? Offer something online where people can take ownership. So, that's what happened. Now about 5 minutes. And we're at number 1 Maslow priority, prevention. So I've got all this recovery, and I'm grateful for all of them. I'm grateful for all of that this happened. But those are broken lives, and they had to go through heartache to get there. I have learned that people in recovery lots of times are the stronger for it. They're more present. They're more engaged. They know the hell that they were in. They don't want that for themselves or their families. So that's fantastic. But I think it's cool to avoid the whole thing. And Joseph Califano Jr., who is my Facebook friend, even sent me a nice message recently. Wrote 2 books, High Society, How to Raise a Drug-Free Kid. Kid gets to 21 without drinking or drugging. I didn't do that. But if they do, and that's our pledge, they're not going to become addicted. That's huge. That's a lot harder to get, too. I get 20, my goal is 25 per year. We have 315. We have 10 to go for this year. So, I still want more. And I pull out, I think that's important. Prevention is very, very important. So, that's the number 1 Maslow priority to me. And I give ownership also to the children, because there are 2 websites, Facebook groups that have over 1 million subscribers. And they're children, they're teenagers. One's called Hugs Not Drugs. Hugs Not Drugs is about living, being present with yourself. How can you do that? Well, you probably can't do that by going to the legal marijuana stores where you couldn't buy it anyway. But you want to be present with yourself. And also another one's called Above the Influence. So I sought these, I want like-minded groups, give them ownership, tell them 12 times during the year, we want 25. Cut and paste, let them know that they're part of a community, let them know that it's growing, let them know that it's part of 315 people, and they're in a community, they can hold on to that. And I can hold on to that. So, those are the lessons. And now for the miracle of a root. In 2008, we sponsored through Lines for Life, used to be called the Oregon Partnership, an essay contest. We had 125 responses. I was amazed. That's all because of Janet. Janet said to me, how am I going to publicize this? She said, call the administrators, call the high school counselors, call 25 of them. Called the counselors, voila, 125 responses. There's two $2,500 scholarships. It wasn't about the money, it was about the essays. My essays I have all published at the website. We do have 300 pages of material, including my dear wife's pictures, all of the essays, and a lot of stuff about addiction. So we get to the miracle of Aruni. Who won this thing? A girl who had had a baby at 16, who was already in recovery from drugs, and now wrote this beautiful essay. And she was so proud, and I'm so proud that she got it, except that I called the counselor, and the counselor rewrote it 5 times. He missed the point, but that's all right. She won, and I thought that was great. Now, we fast forward 8 years later. My dear wife has just had a hemiarthroplasty from the cancer, but in her bones, it's eating in her bones. We have a nurse, and the nurse's name is Aruni. And Aruni tells Janet when she's graduated, and Janet's doing much better, it's about a month later, and she says, may I share something with you? Pulls out her phone, shows a picture of Janet, me, and Mayor Tom Potter, and says, I won your scholarship. What's it called? I pulled up the essay, A Living Miracle. Aruni is a living miracle. We'd even had a little tete-a-tete about some administrative matters, but I got out of the way, so I wasn't there that day. Which was just fun. And she referred to me as Mr. Mercereau, and she wanted Mr. Mercereau and Janet to know that she has had that picture on her wall ever since. She is now an administrator with about 30 other nurses that she sends out into the field, home health care, but she wants more, so she's getting her master's as a nurse. So this is all quite something, and I'm just so grateful for the work, grateful for your presence, and now it's time for us to proactively say a prayer together, which is in your hands. It is the prayer of St. Francis. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace.
Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. Divine Master, grant that I may so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and in the dying that we are born